go to a doctor's appointment and then get them to Tammy. Morning. Awesome.
You're unmuted. Just know
okay,
that
perfect. Yeah.
So whenever you want to start.
Okay. Well, everyone get their coffee. Happy Monday morning. This is why I do the 10, 11, 12 together, because I do the ninth grade just separately. And then I do 10, 11, 12 together because you're kind of getting to be pros by the time they're in 10, 11, 12.
Remember, we're not finished.
But so last year, I think I just talked about, you were here last year, right? I think I just introduced myself. It was my first year here last year. I'll give you like a 2-minute, 30-second spiel. Julian Dietz, I'm the upper school counselor. This is my second year here. I've been a counselor for about 15 years. I started as a counselor in Connecticut. I worked in a public school there for about 8 years, moved abroad, and worked as a college admissions counselor and as a consultant for a special education consulting group for international schools. We decided to move back to the U.S. and my husband's from Louisville. And so we decided to make Louisville our home we have 2 middle schoolers. So we decided this would be a good place for us to be while they continue to grow up. I've loved it so much here. My kids are super happy. I have felt Collegiate offers me the opportunity to be a counselor in the way that I could only imagine, and be creative and be proactive, which I think is really hard sometimes in the counseling field, to be proactive. And so this year is all about our proactive programming. I'm going to talk a little bit about our new upper school SEL program. Does anyone know what SEL stands for? It's kind of like an educator buzzword. We're teaching all the kids what it means, but it just means social emotional learning, which is, emotional, right? It's everything they started in elementary school. It's emotional regulation. It's like how to be a good friend, how to have healthy habits, how to be a part of a community, how to know who you are and drive your activation skills, your organization, your time management, your rest based on who you actually are, how to look at your values and understand how they fit in with your life choices and your decision making, and how to make healthy decisions. I also want to introduce, this is Maggie Marsano. She is on our counseling team this year. She's a clinical doctoral student at Spalding, and she's going to be helping us out with meeting with students for counseling and working on our ninth grade wellness program and participating in our upper school SEL program. She'll probably be running some groups as well. So huge asset. I'm so relieved to have her this year. And I think we're making a pretty good team so far. Yeah. But if you ever have any questions about, how we support our students individually, please feel free to give me a call or talk to Maggie as well, and we can figure out a way to support your students. Okay, so upper school SEL program. So the students all know about this program. We did a kickoff in September to introduce what it was going to look like for this year. And we went through the first month, and we're starting the second month today. So SEL is just, I thought this definition was good. There's an organization called CASEL down here. They're kind of the educator information hub of research and resources for social emotional learning. So social emotional learning is the process through which all young people and adults acquire and apply the knowledge, skills, and attitudes to develop healthy identities, manage emotions, and achieve personal and collective goals. Feel and show empathy for others, establish and maintain supportive relationships, and make responsible and caring decisions. So what we said to the kids, it's like all the things that you are working on right now, like how to get better sleep, like how to deal with a difficult relationship, right? Figuring out who you are. That's what SEL is. Also, SEL is about making stronger and healthier communities, talking to each other and being supportive. So the SEL framework, it's really focusing on self-management, responsible decision-making, relationship skills, social awareness, and self-awareness. And it's really a partnership program, right? It's not something that they just do in the classroom. It's something that happens in their community, on their sports teams, at theater, in their art classes, at home, right? It's something that we all do together. So SEL, there's been a ton of research on SEL, and SEL is positively correlated with academic achievement, right? Scores go up, grades go up when schools have SEL opportunities within their curriculum. Successful employment. So individuals, right? We always say that you see in the news, right? People that are geniuses have built these amazing companies, right? And then they have a demise, like what's their demise, right? It's usually because of their social emotional skills, right? They make a really bad decision. They act unethical, right? They have issues with their employees. So successful employment, companies, Forbes had a whole research presentation on that. Companies are really looking for employees, especially young employees that have those skills that come in with being able to communicate with others, being able to navigate difficult situations. SEL is connected with improved mental health and behavior. You see an increase in students feeling well, and you see a decrease in depression and anxiety when SEL programs are involved with their school community, and also healthy relationships and communities. Why is SEL like really big right now? Why is there a real push? Did anyone read the U.S. Surgeon General's advisory last year that came out on adolescent mental health?
Oh, from like first page to last page.
Yeah.
Okay.
You should have. You should. No. So what I did for the teachers is I gave them like a little summary because it was super long. But did anyone know that it existed? Okay. So last year, the U.S. Surgeon General put out an advisory, which doesn't often happen, and it was all on adolescent mental health. So before COVID hit, the last 10 years before COVID hit, adolescent mental health had been declining, right? We saw a significant decline in how students were feeling, a significant increase in depression, anxiety, and suicidal ideation and suicide attempts. So this U.S. Surgeon General, felt like this is an emergency. I mean, we've seen the news, right? I mean, almost every week there's something about adolescent mental health. There's a mental health crisis at the college level right now, amongst athletes, especially in the collegiate level. You're seeing a mental health crisis. So today's challenges have made it even more important for social emotional learning. The COVID pandemic, we're seeing students that seem 2 years younger than their age that they actually are. So we're having seniors having to make decisions that seniors have to make, but really only having the practice of making those decisions of a 16-year-old, right? So they haven't had the opportunity to make those tiny little decisions along the way that scaffold them to be able to make some more trickier decisions when they're a senior. And it's not just college, but, whether they're around substances or they're dealing with a difficult situation or they have a job, right? They haven't had the same practice that kids before the pandemic had. And the same thing, you see ninth graders seem a little bit more like middle schoolers. You're having a lot more like middle school type friendship issues in ninth grade. Even in 10th grade, you're seeing that a little bit more. Time management and organization, right? They were really struggling with that because they went from one system, and while they were trying to build up those skills, education was completely flipped on its head and they had to work in a different way. And now we're slowly going back to the system, but it's still a little bit different. Right. So they haven't had that practice with their, say their middle school teacher or their ninth grade teacher to say, okay, this is how I organize myself. But the expectations are, right, they're taking AP classes. Those classes have not changed, but they miss the ninth and 10th grade exposure to regular, depending on what age they are, to regular classroom structure to kind of build those skills to be successful in the AP class. So it can sometimes feel overwhelming. Like I have had a lot more kids in my room really overwhelmed just by the idea of like having to manage, the work or the schedule with their other activities. Digital usage, my ninth graders yesterday and my ninth graders last year, who are now 10th graders, like they were talking to me about how they've become so connected to their phones, and that COVID, they feel really increased their phone usage because it was their way to connect to the outside world. It was the way they communicated as a community, and that it's been really hard. And sometimes they feel more social anxiety after COVID. They feel when they're in a space with more people, they feel more nervous, like they're not sure how to deal with it. And so their phone is kind of like a security blanket from when they were a baby. They like to have it on them. They say they don't know how their parents could ever lose their phone or forget their phone at home because they feel like it's a part of them. But they also know that it's not great. It's not great for them. I don't know if they'll admit it to their parents, but they will say to me, like, they know that interacting with their phones, for large portions of the day is not great for them. And it's also, we've had to face as a community a lot of social injustices and inequality. We live in achievement in individualistic culture. They feel the pressure of needing to be successful, and they don't really know what that means, right? So to them, success in high school means things outside of themselves, achieving things outside of themselves. I think as adults, we can see that sometimes, but we also see success as things internally as well. Like I have felt, really good all week, right? That's an achievement. But for students, they see achievement as grades. They see achievement as what college they got into, how they did in their game. They haven't quite developed that success and achievement can also be different for different people. Right? That the achievement that one person has is based on their values and is not just based on our societal values. SEL and trauma, right? We've all had a little bit of trauma from COVID. We've also had other students that have experienced other levels of trauma, right? ACEs is an example of adverse childhood experiences, okay, that impact students' mental health. And so SEL is important because not only does proactive SEL help people deal with chaos, right? We're all going to have a moment of chaos in their lives, whether it's someone on their sports team that's being really difficult, dealing with a bully, or dealing with a global pandemic, or a class that this is impossible, right? They think it's really hard, but school's always been easy for them. They're all going to have things that feel a little chaotic, like they don't have control. So SEL is a protective factor, but it also can be a reactive healing factor for students who have experienced trauma. So our goal this year is to provide our community with like a unified shared vision for social emotional learning. So we've done things. I mean, we had our substance use program last year. We've had character classes. We've done, some DEI and International Student Week. We've had speakers come in. We've done a lot of stuff. But this year, we're really focusing on having a unified program so students know that this is important and they know what's coming. It's not something we're just putting on them. So last year, Sarah and I spent a lot of time, it was our first year in our roles here. We spent a lot of time listening to the kids and talking to the kids and finding out like what they really felt they wanted to learn outside of their academics. And so we based our social emotional learning program this year on what they asked for and talking to parents as well. So this year we're doing the first quarter, and the second quarter we're doing healthy self. The third quarter we're working on healthy relationships, and the fourth quarter we're working on healthy community. Just to build on each other. So our topics, in September, we focused on substance use. So we had prevention solutions. Did anyone go to the parent program for prevention solutions? Yeah. Love feedback. So any of these types of programs, like we would love feedback. So if you have any insights into how our program was, what you think we can improve, what didn't work, what did work, definitely provide feedback. So our students met with Caitlin Smith, who is through Prevention Solutions. They also our ninth graders met with me to talk about substance use. And our 10th graders had the most amount of time with Caitlin. And then our 11th and 12th graders also met with her.
You don't have any sense of the level of substance use that occurs within the students at collegiate?
The substance, I would say it's more like we know of things, but not in a, like, we don't have data on it. It's more of when students come and talk to us, or we hear things that have happened on the weekends. Yeah. I do think that's something that we are going to look into, collecting some data for that. But most of my 9th and 10th graders last year said that they were aware of students like vaping in 7th and 8th grade, and that they were aware of students drinking alcohol in 9th grade. And that's some in 8th grade, a little bit of drinking alcohol. But the perception that the students have is probably higher than the actual reality, but perception drives a lot of decision making, right? So that's part of the problem. So the perception is that all parties have substances. That's their perception. And so we were really focusing on kind of like understanding what the actual norms are. So with substance use, it's looking at like harm reduction is definitely a piece of it. Understanding the science of it, right? Trying to help the kids to understand that before your brain is fully developed, right? Substances have a much different impact on you and can have permanent impact on your brain makeup than once your brain is fully developed, and trying to understand that is why we're focusing on delayed usage as much as possible. And also focusing on like how the students can help support each other if they know someone that's struggling with substance use. So I hope that we can collect some data this year. It's hard because we want to use something that's valid and reliable and not just like a survey that we come up with. So we're looking into that a little bit. October is all about healthy habits. So there's a million healthy habits, right? But we're focusing on 3 different healthy habits. So this week until the 10th, we're working on activation skills. So that's time management, organization, understanding your process, and understanding how your identity should drive your habits. After the break, we're focusing on sleep, right? That is a huge concern for our students. They are not getting enough sleep. Probably most people aren't getting enough sleep, but they are definitely not getting enough sleep. They are exhausted. They say it all the time. And they can't quite figure out how to manage that. So we are going to look at it systemically, like how are we influencing their sleep? Like how are we as a community influencing their sleep, and also helping to support them to figure out like what can they do to improve the quality of their sleep and also improve the quantity of their sleep. So they're going to do that. We're going to spend about a week on that. They're going to do a sleep log. We would love for parents to also do a sleep log during that time. I think most of the faculty are going to do it as well, because I think this is something we are all struggling with, not just the kids, like the faculty in addition. And then the last week is something called PDF. Not the PDF, but it stands for Playtime, Downtime, Family Time. Has anyone ever heard about that? We're going to send you resources for all of the activities we're doing, but that's out of Challenge Success, which is a Stanford organization that does research on student wellness and student success. So Playtime, Downtime, Family Time is that students, all people really, should have scheduled time for play, for downtime, for family time, and not just like my playtime is I go to practice, right? Because that's with a coach. It's structured. You have a goal, but playtime should be something that you don't have necessarily a goal. It's just something that you're doing for enjoyment. And we're going to talk a lot about non-screen family downtime and playtime. So talking about how that changes, how you feel, and how to be productive in the times that you have established for productivity, so that when you have the playtime, downtime, family time, it's quality playtime, downtime, family time. It's not 15 minutes scrolling on your phone. It's actual time to rest and recharge your body, to connect with other people, because they're huge protective factors. Healthy relationships. We're going to talk about connection and communication. To think connection is a protective factor for wellness, for mental health, for challenges that people face. Communication is incredibly important. We had Rosetta Lee came to talk about DEI with our 9th and 10th graders last week, and talking about how to communicate with others what your needs are, and then also how to be a listener. I have found that my students last year, they struggled with one side or the other. Right. So they were either felt like they were a listener and just like never expressed their own needs. So they were just like taking all of this on to themselves. Or they were someone who could communicate their needs, but struggled to listen to the group and understand how to be accepting communication from others. So we're going to look at both sides of that. We're going to focus on sexuality education and relationships. We have someone, a professional sexuality educator that works in the community of Louisville at different schools, that's going to come in and offer a program for parents and also programs for our students. This was something that all of our grade levels asked for last year. They felt like they had a lot of questions. It's different than when I was a kid and there was just like no information, right? So my health class was like a place to learn or talking to my friends. Now there is so much information, but they have no idea how to vet it. And so providing the health standards that have been established in the US recommend that schools provide an opportunity for parents and students to learn about sexuality education facts. healthy community, we're going to focus on DEI. We're looking at DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion through each of the care categories, but we're also going to focus on how to celebrate people's differences and not just focus on tolerance or compassion, but also how to celebrate other people's differences and how it makes us a stronger and more vibrant community. We're going to focus on our cornerstones here at Collegiate, and kindness and service. I'm really excited for the end of the year because I think, as we build all these different skills, I feel like the end is going to be like a really beautiful opportunity for us to come together. Okay, so how can you get involved? We want this to be a partnership, right? So we have brought this to our students. Our student leaders are participating and helping us roll out this program. But we want our families to be involved as well. So we're going to try to offer either a community opportunity, like Caitlin came for substance prevention, or a resource guide, and let the parents know what we're working on so that it can be, something that everybody's involved with. And you can have conversations with your kids about the topics. Like right now with my 10th graders that I have in my class. So every 10th grade, does anyone a 10th grade parent? Yeah. So most of you. Okay. So they'll take me for their character class, which our focus is resilience. And so we are doing, I had one group this first quarter, and then they're split into 4. So they'll have me for 1 quarter for our class on resilience. So we're focusing on what is resilience, right? Because I think we use that term, but we don't actually know exactly what it is. That it's skills and also some innate personality characteristics. And we're focusing on resilience through storytelling. So this week is my last week with the sophomores I have right now. And we're meeting with a 3rd grade class, and we're going to work together on helping the 3rd graders write a story about resilience. Because I find the 3rd graders are much more open to telling a story, and the 10th graders feel it's harder for them to be vulnerable. So they've brainstormed and they've jotted down notes for what is the story of their resilience, but they're going to each partner with a 3rd grader to help write a story, whether it's a factual or a fiction or nonfiction. They can come up with a fictional story too. But they're going to work on creating a story about resilience, because storytelling, telling your story about what your strengths are, is a way to make it true and to hold on to it. And so they have worked on worksheets to kind of dialogue what their weaknesses are, what their vulnerabilities are, and what their strengths are, what their protective factors are. And I'm going to ask them to work with their advisors and then also share with their college counselors. So when they're stressed about the college process, these are things that help me, that protect me, that help me. This is what makes me resilient. So that's what my class is for the 10th grade. And, it's exciting and it's really fun. They really do such a great job in class. And I can tell that it's good for them to have the opportunity to talk about it. So for getting involved, please, if you have a skill set in any of these areas, or you're just passionate about it, please reach out to me. We want to work as a community. I know there's so many amazing people in this community that can share their expertise. So please reach out. If you have an idea or you feel like there's a gap, please, same thing, let us know so that we can add it into our programming. This is something we want to build on every year. We have our core competencies program that is going to be, coming out that focuses a lot. There's a whole competency on wellness. So we're going to blend these two together. But really our goal is for these kids to leave collegiate feeling like they're prepared academically, but they're also just healthy and prepared for the world, because that is what is going to help them, be satisfied and successful. Oh, that's the grade 9 one. So that's the SEL program. I'll leave it for questions. If there's anything else outside of that too that you want to know just about, what's going on or what I've seen in the last year, I'm happy to, answer any of those questions. It doesn't have to be about SEL. All right. Any questions? Yeah.
You said at the end of the year, you talked about service. I was having a sort of literally a sideline conversation at a game with another parent who has a child who's going to a different high school.
Mm-hmm.
And she brought this up to me and said, my kid at this other high school, they've already spent 2 days as a grade or in a group doing service.
Yeah.
And I really feel like that has totally fallen away from the school in some ways. And so I just wonder if that's a conversation that's happening.
Yeah. I mean, we definitely, so I have about 15 teachers who have volunteered their time, lunch breaks to work on this. Right. And I would say of that group, everyone, feels and believes that service is incredibly important. I think as we're kind of figuring out, COVID has been really challenging, but it also has given us the opportunity to reflect on what we want to prioritize and what we really want to focus on. And that is definitely something that is in the core competencies that we're developing in these type of conversations. I think we're just not at the point of understanding what we exactly want that to look like for our students, because we want it to be an opportunity for growth and not an opportunity for being overwhelmed. We don't want them to feel like service is a chore or something you have to check off, that it feels more authentic. The Me to We Club is definitely building up, and I'll send her a link, does a lot of our community outreach programs. And so we are definitely looking at that. I'm not sure yet what it looks like, but I mean, for me, it's really important. It's important for the students and it's important for the community. So yeah, it's really important.
I would just second that.
Yeah.
Or that or whatever, right?
Yeah.
That's something that I'm so happy to hear someone else bring it up.
Yeah.
Because I do, this is my perception. I think collegiate does a million things great. I think it is a little bit of a bubble. And I think that getting kids out in the community, seeing other things, they don't do it already, but is really, really important.
Yeah. I think we have to really, I think the core competencies are going to help with that and driving, we only have a certain amount of hours in our day, right? So we're looking at how do we add service back into our program? How do we also offer experiences outside of collegiate, right? So how do we take the kids on learning opportunities outside of collegiate and also balance the requirements, right? If they're taking an AP class, we don't get to pick what they need to know for the AP exam and how we balance that. And so we are definitely looking at our schedule and trying to figure out what that might look like. I would say probably we will definitely have some stuff the fourth quarter, but I think definitely next year we'll have a better sense of what our calendar actually looks like.
And I would throw out a suggestion. I'm a big proponent of athletics, and I think that through the teams, I know our new basketball coaches could do community service with the team. Mm-hmm. There's a way to get the coaches involved, so take their teams and do this or do that. And most 60-70%, whatever it is, the students play some sport. And so that could be a way to incorporate without creating an extra thing
during the day. Yeah. Paul's on our team, our SEL team. So, we'll definitely be talking about that. He's participated in the substance use program, as well as he's helping right now with the healthy habits. So I will definitely talk to him about that as well. He's amazing. He really wants the kids to be as healthy as possible. Next weekend, the counselors and Bridget and lower school counselor and Kate, the middle school counselor, we're doing a suicide prevention training with our coaches, just to, make sure that we're doing everything together.
Have our kids, here at Collegiate, have we ever had like a certain number of hours that were needed?
I don't know, Sarah is not here. Yeah. I know a lot of schools have service hours.
Yeah.
I think with the like honor society and stuff like that, they have to do community service hours. But right now we don't have a graduation requirement for service hours. I also think I could see our May term maybe having a big service opportunity for students.
I think the seniors with their buddies did like the Green Mile or
Yeah.
something recently.
Yeah, the seniors do.
Track.
hmm So there definitely are. I mean, the Me to We Club is great too. Like they offer the service opportunities for anyone. Like you don't just have to be in the club. They're just the ones that research what the service opportunities are and let students know about it. So I would encourage, like, I think we'll have more communication about that, and kids there's opportunities for service. There's just not requirement for service, if that makes sense at this point.
And I do think that's somewhere that you said that I don't think it can all just be thrown on the school. I think the parents have a responsibility to teach their kids, hey, look, let's take our own time and go to community service. So from my perspective, I don't want you to think the school's got to do it just because they'll be able to be.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's good if it comes in like all the different buckets, and I think we'll get there. For sure. Any other questions?
Were the lunches, the advisory lunches that I know my kids said that they've done in the last couple of weeks, is that sort of part of
Yeah.
this? Okay.
Yep. So we offered the kids last year for SAD Day. We did something that's Students Against Destructive Decisions. And we had an opportunity for student facilitated groups, and we got a lot of really good feedback on that. So last week we gave the students the opportunity we had senior facilitators who I trained, and they met with all of the different advisories. We came up with questions for each grade level, and they met with all the different advisories during lunchtime to talk about substance use and decisions and how to have fun in a healthy community without substances. And so that was part of this program. So we always bring the kids in, like once we have a topic, to say like, how can we make this as student friendly as possible? Any other questions?
Just say, what are you seeing that our students are stressed about now that we're coming out of COVID and things are opening up, and what are you seeing?
Yeah, I would say last year for me, when I would ask this question, they were exhausted. They were just really tired. They liked the pace of life when they were in like the real midst of COVID. It felt more manageable, and coming back felt exhausting. They felt so tired. And I think, I missed like those walks with my family for an hour. But I think part of it is, there's a lot of research that affluent communities, students' mental health is struggling. Like it's actually considered an at-risk group now. So along poverty and, trauma and racial issues that impact people at risk, affluence, and communities where there are so many opportunities, but the expectations, right? Whether we're putting expectations on them or they just have them, is impacting mental health. This was in the U.S. Surgeon General's advisory. It's not just like a one research study. It is causing stress. So they definitely feel like the pace of life, that they're not sleeping enough. And that's kind of become a cultural norm. And they feel, my ninth graders were talking about college. last year, like feeling the pressure of like college. They don't even know what a transcript is or credits or like any of the real details of like what that even means. And so I think it's even more anxiety provoking when they don't have information. Right? It's this like abstract thing that they're like, now that I'm in high school. And so some of them are just like trying to get through their days, living for the future. And other ones are just feeling like not great about themselves because they can't achieve this, perfection. And I think a little bit relationships. I saw more relationship issues last year than I had seen in the past. And I joined like a counseling conversations through Kentucky and nationwide. We all get on calls and everybody was seeing the same thing. Some people are seeing more like violence in schools. I was seeing there's like people not being as nice to each other and just saying whatever they think, or sometimes just saying rude things. And that was causing a lot of stress, right? It's so hard to focus on your academics or have fun when you feel like people don't like you. So I did see more of that last year.
In your all teaching in SEL, is there, again, what you're referring to, is there any discussion about what you call the precious present, like enjoy the moment, like don't look to get the parents or the society saying, you got to be this, or this, just like enjoy your day. You all talk about that? Yeah.
So, part of Healthy Habits a little bit is about that, but next November, December is going to be about mental health. So a lot of our upperclassmen take the mindfulness course that we have, where it's not just, meditation, it's really talking about the present moment. Our teachers, a lot of them talk about it in advisory, but it's going to be part of the mental health conversation in November and December. We talk about it a little bit, like with the college consultants, Candace and Molly, like they're really great and helping support the kids and like helping them get to a healthy place with the college process and like all the stuff that, bleeds down from that. So we're really working on it, but it's something that like, our lower school is building on that. Like, I think that the gap of COVID where some of this stuff wasn't happening, these high school students are going to not have as many skills in that area. Like they're not going to have had that conversation, right? You have to have that conversation so many times. I think Caitlin Smith said 61-minute conversations, right? Because you have to say it so many times and model it. Like we need to model it too. Right. And we don't always do a great job of modeling. I know I don't always do a great job of modeling with my kids sometimes. And I know better. But yeah, it's like building on it from lower school to middle school. They're doing we have to do kind of double duty right now with our high school students because they had that gap for a couple of years. Anything else? Okay. Sarah, did you want to add anything? I mean, you just got
Right back in.
You just got here. I just said that we have like people volunteering for this SEL program, and it's something that is really important, and that you and I knew in our roles last year. Just really listened to the kids and the parents and the research and the experts, and this is something that is new this year, based on some stuff that we already have. But this is important for us. I haven't had any teacher say this is important. Everybody has said this is incredibly important. How do we make this happen? Yeah.
Do you think this was just such a response to conversations last year with lots of different students and parents, and just feeling like, how do we talk about this when we're not in a moment of crisis? Whether it's mental health concern or some type of social issue, and it felt like we were trying to educate and, comfort and support kind of all at the same time. And we were like, how do we piece these things out in a way that, we can talk about these things in a really kind of safe, constructive way, and students can build these skills, not necessarily when they are like in the thick of a tough, challenging moment.
Yeah, trying not to teach them how to swim in the ocean, but trying to teach them in a pool where they can stand is kind of our goal. So we're trying to take those moments to do that and build on it. Kids are going to love some of it, and some of it they're going to roll their eyes. But at least if they hear it, then we know we can build on it.
And it's the way to start a conversation too, right? Because sometimes kids don't quite know the language or how to communicate their needs. And this kind of opens that door for them to say, oh, well, this is something that I hadn't considered. Maybe I can go to Ms. Dietz or my parent and talk to them about these kind of questions that I have, concerns. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all so much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Feel free to reach out anytime.
I just want to communicate that about the service. I think that is so important.
Yeah.
And I understand, I came from the Catholic school system.